Dear Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal players, and all viewers of this video, welcome to something of a cathartic video. Honestly, done purely for me to just get my thoughts out and know while you're all kind of laughing and typing up your comments now, I don't think for 1 second that the Arsenal players or the boss himself spend his Friday or Saturday watching the Goonerverse. But I did want to get some thoughts out. I did want to talk about moving forward and what I think and hope and expect of this Arsenal team. Because for all the moaning I've done, and trust me, across a player ratings, a match reaction, 3 separate podcasts, and I'll go Rory Jennings channels, I think that's 6 separate pieces of content, I have moaned about Arsenal. I have moaned about Arsenal. I have got my complaints, my critique, my thoughts out there plenty. But there comes a point where even I am like, well, if I'm not expecting the players and the manager to roll over and sort of say it's done and give up at this point, then I kind of can't either. There comes a point where I've got to dust myself down and go, right, it's Tottenham on Sunday. What are we about? But as I do that, I want to kind of explore a little bit more holistically what I think we all want and need from this team. What's going to get the fan base really back on side? Because I've never seen the fan base more united, almost against what they're seeing. Certainly not for a long, long time, which is a bit concerning for the position we're in. And I want to discuss what I think I need. I mean, ultimately I'm going to speak about what I need, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below as well. So this is, like I said, something of a cringy, please don't take it too seriously, I'm just getting my thoughts out, open letter to a manager and group players I'm pretty sure aren't watching this, but at the very least, I can have my thoughts and feelings publicly put out there, and plenty of you can in the comment section below, and I'd love to know what you make of a lot of what I'm going to say. I suppose I start with kind of questions and then thoughts that spin off that. So what I've questioned and moaned a lot about recently is starting 11, approach to games. What's our identity as a football team? Very recently, I think Alex did a video on the different knock, and he asked the question on Twitter, how will we be remembered? Where there's kind of the Invincibles and like lots of teams have tags, Centurions, what will this team be remembered as? Now, I think we're in real danger. Look, do we care if we win it? I hear that question. But I think we're a little bit in danger of being remembered, whether we win it or not, quite unfavourably for the level this team has got to. But I also think, and this is true of Arteta and Arsenal, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think we're at a little bit of a crossroads where we're also very, very possibly going to be remembered, if we can turn this around just in time, as one of the most complete, innovative, unique teams this Premier League has ever seen. One that did prioritise set pieces, but could still score loads of goals, but could still go toe-to-toe in a high press with Bayern Munich. That did beat Man City and Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola. That did it in a way in which they developed a process. They did something where they had to compete with the mega spending of the Premier League and did that, and of their rivals, but were able to incorporate Hale Enders as a part of that too, who are actually the bedrock, the start of this kind of journey, who suffered plenty of lows and shortcomings and fell at the very last hurdles on several occasions, but were able to overcome it and produce perhaps one of the best centre-back partnerships the Premier League's ever seen. I'm not saying they are, but I think the potential is there. That produced players like Bukayo Saka, that got another level out of someone like a Declan Rice, and did in a way in which the football was so complete. I think this Arsenal team could very easily be remembered as, well, you didn't know how to stop them. They were so good defensively, they were so good on the ball, they could outscore you. Now, this isn't what people are saying of this Arsenal team now, but it wasn't long ago. Tottenham 4-1, Bayern, even like second halves against Sunderland, for example, we looked good. The Villa 4-0. It wasn't long ago where people thought, how do you stop this Arsenal team? And I don't believe 7 games in a Premier League season out of 38 will completely redefine who you are. But we got to turn the course that this ship is on very quickly. Because I think if we do, we really could be remembered as something of I don't want to say a unicorn side, because there have been other better sides. We will not win this league as the best side to ever do it. But as one where you stopped and went, like they were incredibly complete. And they did it in a very strangely physical, like surprising era that the Premier League wasn't expected to go in. And you know what? They were ahead of the curve doing it. And they did it in a process that took years. They backed a manager that could have been sacked on 2, maybe 3 occasions, and eventually got there with a manager and a group who had never done it before. They'd never, Jurgen Klopp had 1 league, Pep Guardiola had 1 league. Some of those players had 1 league, but this group and this manager hadn't, and they grew naturally together and they got there. That is what we could be remembered as. On top of potentially not just league winners, but maybe a double winners. Maybe there's 3 trophies. We are, with Man City, on course for a quadruple. Now, I don't think we're going to win that. But the fact that it's there for us shows the potential that this season can have. So my questions about the 11 are, I appreciate to get to this position, you can't just rip up the playbook and say, nope, start again. We're doing it all from scratch. You can't reinvent who we are just like that. But like I said, for a lot of this season, we have been a team that I think we're at least proud of. I'm not saying we're thoroughly entertained and forever blown away by what we're trying to do. But I think we've largely been proud of this Arsenal team for most of this campaign. And things have really kind of gone downhill recently. And then the football not being so entertaining and free-flowing and all that has started to bother us more, where in previous games like beating Palace 1-0 or Brighton 2-1, we were okay with it because the football was just good enough, but we also kept the opposition at arm's length plenty. And you thought, okay, ultimately these are very complete performances and we're away from that right now. But my question about ripping up the game model is this, and I talked about this on TDK Plus with Alex. If you swap Gyökeres and Eze, so Eze presses from the left side and he gets the ball in the left half space. This is true of Odegaard too. I think that's where they're both more effective. If you swap Zubimendi and Rice, so Zubimendi receives the ball more on the left of central midfield, like he did a lot for Sociedad, and Declan Rice is bombing up and down as a box-to-box right central midfield. If you did that, but ultimately the tactics were the same, the approach was the same, would that rip up the game model so much? And would it not actually raise potential levels by an extra 5%? And maybe that extra 5% is all we need, because like I said, we are still top of the league. We are still in all 4 competitions. When Bukayo Saka receives the ball on the touchline and he's being double, tripled up on, and it's Declan Rice making that bombing, underlapping run to receive the ball on his right foot and hit it across goal immediately, does implementing that rip up the game model? We haven't really changed the 11 much. We've just tweaked where they're standing. And Eze, when he's receiving the ball in the half space and he sets and he opens up to get a shot at goal, to maybe play a diagonal through ball or something, when he's looking to do that, does that disrupt the press so much? Does that completely rip up what Arteta's trying to do? When Trossard receives the ball and he's playing out wide and he's receiving the ball more in the pocket with Calafiori and Capia on the overlap as opposed to the other way around, does that completely rip up the game model? So my question, I suppose, is I don't expect Mikel Arteta to take us this far and say I'm tearing it all up because of a bad month or so. But I'm expecting him to go, realistically, if we're being totally honest, we haven't been that exciting and entertaining for a little while. So can I make a tweak that plays to the strengths that I've implemented in this Arsenal team, but gives us another level and a different dimension? I don't think in 23-24, when we went on that amazing run, he absolutely ripped up the playbook. But he tweaked the use of Jorginho a little bit. He got Kivior in the back 4. He put Havertz up front. We went up levels. I wonder if that's there. Because ultimately, I want and I need this Arsenal team to die trying. It's the one thing I will say in all this, that if you want to be feared, I think you have to be fearless. If you want to be a side that teams go, we're facing Arsenal, then I think you've got to play with that kind of personality, arrogance almost. What was that clip of, I think it was 2 seasons ago, in the tunnel, Ben White, Gabriel Saliba, all turning and looking at the opposition at once in the away tunnel. You want teams to look and go, so they're technically better than us, they're on better form, they're faster than us, and now they're taller and stronger and more intimidating than us. Get those levels back in this team. Make teams fear us again. But you've got to be fearless, because in those games, we were 4-5-0 up away at Burnley, away at West Ham, away at Sheffield United. We put teams that were lower down in the table to the sword. And we said, we're sending your fans home 25 minutes into this game. But because we were fearless, we just went for it. We had a go. We didn't see a second and third goal go in and go, that's plenty. We're just going to be careful now. Because when you do that, that might work for a certain amount of time. Teams going, Arsenal probably got enough goals in this, we'll huff and puff, but I'm not sure we're going to ask many questions in them. But it gets a point where you go, if you're the opposition, they're not hurting us here. So we're going to step onto them. We're going to play braver. We're going to chance it that they're going to miss the opportunities and not take advantage of the space that's behind, because Arsenal aren't the best in transition. Far from it. And we're going to have a go. Suddenly you're not feared anymore. Suddenly teams are embracing the challenge. We need to, if we aren't going to win this title, and it will come with a lot of criticism, and it will come with some big questions, some uncomfortable conversations, but my word, die trying. Because at the moment, we're almost on course to, let's call it what it is, bottle this title, having not been brave enough or done it in a way where you could sort of at least understand it being erratic, it being a bit open, it being a bit touch and go. Because we're playing a contained brand of football without our results feeling like they're contained and protected for it. So go for it. And when you do that, you get the fans massively on side. You get the fans massively behind you when it's a brand of football that you, as the viewer, as a fan, who are tuning into the 90 minutes once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week, when you get that, you feel like you're connected to the side, you feel energized. You suddenly, what's that mean when you're playing FIFA? When you're playing like this, and then you suddenly go like this. Arsenal fans will go, okay, and suddenly there's an energy. And I'm not feeling that in Arsenal games, but it's the brand of football. Forget all these shorts and memes and clips doing the rounds of Arsenal fans need to get behind the team. The team need to inspire, and it comes from a brand of football, and it comes from a degree of application and bravery and commitment that us Arsenal fans go, okay. Now I know the players are trying. I'm not saying they're not trying, but the aim of football is to put the ball in the back of the net. And the most inspiring teams are the ones that do that and feel in a rush to give you that rush, to give you that rush of blood, that thrill, that excitement. Because every time a ball goes into the back of the net, it's a dopamine hit. It's adrenaline, it's excitement, it's community, it's crazy. And Arsenal play the game at the moment like they don't want to do that much. But I'm sorry, nothing beats the thrill of the ball going in the back of the net, and that thrill of we've won the game and there's still an hour to play. If you can embrace that side of the game more, Arsenal, you will have the fans on board. And that's where I come to Arteta. Mikel Arteta, I mentioned the crossroads earlier. I think he's at a bit of a crossroads himself. I think Mikel Arteta he's kind of like on the brink of being... I said something that I didn't think was very controversial the other day. I said it on Loose Cannons and people in the comments were kind of disagreeing. I said Arteta is one of the best managers in Europe. I don't think that's a particularly controversial sentence. I think he goes toe-to-toe with the best in a single 90 minutes. He's taken a side that they've spent money, but they don't have like Real Madrid's players or Man City's players, or maybe in previous years, let's say. This year, I think we do. But he's taken them to the final day of a Premier League season. He's taken the Champions League semi-finals. He has played the game in quite a unique way, whether people always love it or not. Certainly the brand of the Premier League has followed a lot of what Arteta's done. And there's still debate and question of whether he's one of the best. Now, I'm not saying he's like perfect and he's definitely going to win us this league, but I don't think it's kind of controversial to say he's one of the best in Europe. I also think there's been a degree of fall off across, the leagues for how many great managers there really are. Look at some of the appointments our rivals have made over the last few years. Now, I think he's at a crossroads, though, of being seen as the nearly man, with all the love in the world, what Brendan Rodgers is seen as in the Premier League. To be fair, he won the FA Cup with Leicester. But a couple of years, he looked like Leicester might get the Champions League, and they always fell away. For a couple of years, he had a Liverpool side, or 1 year in particular, he had a Liverpool side that people thought they might do it, and they didn't. I think he's kind of close to being seen as that, as he is a world-class manager who will go to PSG, who's at Arsenal and will win. And then we'll go to PSG and will win. And then we'll go to Barcelona and will win. I feel like he's at this crossroads, but a lot of it might well be defined, not just by whether he gets over the line or not, but by the football he plays. Because I think he will get the Barcelona job one day, or the PSG job one day. But I think if his Arsenal sides are defined by this brand of football, which, like I said, is very quickly reversible, but if he is, I'm not sure those opportunities will come, because those are clubs, in particular Barcelona, and maybe Bayern one day as well, that demand a certain brand and a certain aggression in the game, and a certain pace and a certain tempo and a certain, playing like the protagonist. And I think Arteta is a little bit at that crossroads. So Mikel, go for it, because this Arsenal team have the tools to answer any question. I really believe that. You need a poacher, pure finisher, you've got that in Gyökeres. You need an all-round striker who's as good in link-up as he is as attacking the box, and you've got Kai Havertz. If you want the dropping deep, linking the play, a bit more flair, you've got that in Gabi Jesus. And then across the midfield, Eze, Ødegaard, Saka, Madueke, Martinelli, Trossard, they're not perfect, but they all solve different problems. Rice, Zubimendi, Norgard, the same. White and Timber offer different things, and Capi and Calafiori offer different things. You have a Swiss Army knife of players there that can answer anything. That's why I went into January for the first time saying, I don't mind if we don't sign anyone. Don't let anyone go. And I complained about Waneri, but I don't mind if we don't sign anyone, because the problem solvers are there. Go embrace it. Go for it. And what better game than Tottenham this weekend to have? It might not be Anfield, right? I appreciate City winning at Anfield was a big moment for them. And if we win at Tottenham, it will be our fourth win there in a row. So I appreciate the context is different. But how about that? To win at Tottenham, a game where City will be thinking, they could drop the points that really put us in charge of this title race now. Imagine winning that and going, yeah, no, the gap's still 5 points, because I think they'll beat Newcastle. What if they don't? What if the gap goes to 8 with the game in hand? If my maths is right. Or whatever it is. But okay, let's assume they beat Newcastle. What if, City fans are rubbing their hands going, yeah, the collapse has started, and we go, no, we've just won at Tottenham. Now we beat Chelsea. Because we're talking about a Man City side having momentum, having the energy to go for it. But they've got something like 3 wins and 7 themselves. So all this run has done is leveled the playing field to a degree, and we still have a slight gap on the title race. So use that position, build momentum now, before it's really too late and you've totally surrendered control to City. Some will say we've done that because of the fact that we have to go to the Etihad. But no, it's as much in our control as it is theirs. Embrace that. Go win at Tottenham and just try and re-inject some energy into your season, and do it in a way where people go, okay, yeah, they've clicked. I mentioned the Arsenal 3-1 win against Liverpool, Klopp's Liverpool, at the start of 2024. That was a game that made us feel like, yeah, we've clicked, we're there, let's go. And to Arsenal fans, I see a lot of content about Arsenal fans being annoying, frustrating. This is why no one wants Arsenal to win, because of the fan base. And look, I'll say this, right, just on the fan base, I think it's important. We need to drown out that noise, because from my understanding, the Emirates Stadium is one of the safest grounds to go to. And the fans in that stadium are amazing. And every Arsenal fan I know is top. I love every Arsenal fan I know in my life. And the communities, the support around the world for Arsenal is unbelievable. I've seen it. I've been so lucky to go on tour with AFTV and see Arsenal fan bases around the world. They are extraordinary. They wake up at ridiculous time. And I'm not saying that's not true of other fan bases too, but Arsenal fans around the world are supporting this team no matter what, whatever time, they are there. And I think to myself, drown out that noise, because for some good rage bait and clicks, media are using a social media fan base, of which some can be admittedly a bit irritating, to paint a narrative about how we as Arsenal fans are approaching this title race and supporting our team. I think we're doing a great job, and I mean the ones who aren't just on Twitter tweeting a lot, but who support in a different way. And I would like Arsenal to play in a way that rewards that kind of passion, that commitment, and that makes us feel like, yeah, this is why we do it, to watch this team do this. So, I've got a lot of thoughts out there. I can't believe I spoke for 20 minutes. This was honestly intended to be a 10-minute video. Like I said, it's just me getting some thoughts off my chest. I know Arteta and the Arsenal players aren't watching this, but I can't, on the 20th of February, throw in the towel, sit back and just watch it all kind of unfold and collapse. So at the very least, I can tell all of you, whoever watches this, that for all my anger and frustration, of which I've got a lot of it out in the last few days, I will be turning the TV on Sunday and getting pumped for that game, or at least trying to as much as I can, and I hope the players do the rest. And I'll be supporting, and I'll be like, let's go. And if they lose, I will moan, and I'll be frustrated, and I will whinge about it, and I'll do my videos, and I'll do my content, and then I'll be back the week after to do it again. That's what being a football fan is. But I like the Arsenal players to play in a way that makes us feel like we're at least on the journey with them, if that makes sense. What else? What did Arteta say? How do we want to play these 4 months? It was a great question. It was a great quote. Now let's see that on the pitch. Sorry for the long video. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll leave it there. Can't believe how long this video was, but hopefully it made sense. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will be back to react to Tottenham. Let's hope it goes well. See you all in a bit. Have a great weekend, everyone.